market. We have Pirojsha Godrej now joining us, MD and CEO of Godrej Properties. They have got some good response to some of their recent properties. Pirojsha, good morning. Before I talk about your Pune property, I just want to ask about what's happening in Mumbai, because we've seen a big rally in stocks in Mumbai-based real estate stocks, and I also saw a report that the registration in December have actually gone up compared to November. What is that signaling?
Yeah, good morning. Great to be with you. Happy New Year to you and all of your viewers. I think, we've fundamentally felt for a while that the real estate sector is very likely to see a strong year in 2017. I think we've had a few years of weakness now in a row, which tends to create quite a bit of pent-up demand. Also, the fundamentals of the economy are strong. I think people's incomes are growing, interest rates are coming down, so affordability of real estate is therefore considerably better today than it was a couple of years ago. And I think it's not surprising that December would have seen an improvement over November. I think people obviously were taken by surprise by the demonetization announcement. I think a lot of speculation immediately unfolded that would lead to substantial real estate price reductions. And I think as things have settled and as customers have realized that situation is quite unlikely, I think people are coming back into the market. And again, we expect 2017 to be a much, much better year for the sector than the one we've just completed.
Okay. Pirojsha, hi, good morning. Thanks for joining in on the show. Tell us a little bit about what's happening in the other markets as well. You had a successful launch in Pune with Godrej Greens. Even in Noida, a market that has slowed down so much, you had quite a good, response to your new Noida property. Are you not seeing any slowdown at all in any of these markets?
Sonia, I think there certainly is a slowdown, and I think the slowdown persists across all markets. But I think the more interesting point is how do we expect to see that play out over the year ahead? And our own sense is, with some of the regulations coming in the sector, of course, RERA being implemented over the next few months, we think governance standards in the sector will substantially improve. We've already seen a great improvement in affordability because of interest rates and no price increases for the last 2-3 years. So I think all of this combines to make what we think will be a very, very strong second half of the year for the sector. In terms of cities, I think, all cities have currently seen a slowdown. You're correct that in different markets that's been to different extents. But our own sense is that for developers that are fundamentally trusted by customers, where customers are happy with the product positioning, there continues to be strong demand. So we've seen that with this new launch we've had in Pune. We've seen that with the Noida launch, as you mentioned, a couple of months ago, and with several other developers who have credible names and who are seeing good responses to their projects. That doesn't mean that there isn't a slowdown, but my sense is that the concerns about the sector and the likelihood of the slowdown persisting are quite overblown.
Okay. Morning, Pirojsha. Thank you for joining us and wish you greetings for the new year for you and everyone at Godrej. I wanted to scratch that point a little more. The conventional wisdom that is prevailing is that not well registered and listed companies like yours, but for a large part of the real estate sector, the slowdown will be persistent and long. We know that a lot of secondary flats in Mumbai, we don't need to be, that's not belief. We have seen flats selling for whatever, 60-40 black. We understand similar is the case in Noida, in the NCR region as well. It's very common that unaccounted money is a large part. Now, if that ceases to exist, will not the real estate sector suffer? A person no less than Deepak Parekh told us, I think, in November, that he expected at least a 25% fall in real estate prices in some places, in some projects. What is your assessment of at least the first 6 months in real estate prices and in, the fate of this flat sales numbers?
Good morning, Lata. I think that's a great question, and frankly, it is very hard to predict short-term movements in real estate prices. I'm always reluctant to hazard a guess because there are so many different factors impacting them. There's no doubt that the sector has been through a slowdown. There's no doubt actually in some markets and some projects prices are already down by the kind of amounts you've mentioned over the last year or two. So to my mind, a further 25% price reduction is quite unsustainable. Now, if the absolute lack of demand continues to persist for another year, you could see that in the short term, but it's not that developers' margins currently can really tolerate those kind of price reductions. So while out of desperation on their currently announced project, you might see that kind of a price cut, you won't see fresh supply coming in at these new prices if in fact a price reduction happens, which in turn will put again pressure on prices moving up as demand absorbs the current supply. But my own sense is that, the sector is very cyclical and very sentiment-bound, Lata. And I think the reason for that is that when things are negative as they are currently, people tend to think that they will continue that way forever. And that is almost always not the case. I think the most recent example I can think of was in 2008 and 2009, where after the global financial crisis, at the beginning and middle of 2009, people thought the sector would never come back and that prices would halve and all the rest of it. And by 2010, again, things were looking quite good. So it is true that there are problems in the sector. It is true that the black money situation does create some amount of demand, but I think it's perhaps overstated what level of demand it is responsible for. And I think fundamentally India is a country where the economy is growing,
Sure.
The population is growing, urbanization is happening, and there is very, very strong demand factors also boosting real estate, although there might be some of these short-term challenges as
So
well.
Pirojsha, can you tell us a little bit about Godrej Properties' own pipeline over the next 6 to 8 months? What kind of launches are you looking at? And you had very strong pre-sales in the quarter gone by. It went up almost about 25% or so. What kind of pre-sales run rate per quarter can we expect in the second half of the year?
Sonia, we intentionally don't, give any pre-sales guidance or guidance on any other numbers, because I think in this sector, again, it's so volatile, largely due to kind of when project approvals come in. And those can change dramatically the amount of pre-sales we can do. But certainly, I think the pipeline is looking very strong, both from the existing portfolio, where we have a few important launches coming up, including further launches in our project here in Vikhroli. But also from a business development perspective, because I think one of the key priorities for our company during this during this phase of weakness has been to make sure we use it as an opportunity to bolster our own project portfolio. So I expect over the next few months several announcements on new projects, all of which we hope will be launched in FY18, and that can give a big leg up, we hope, to our pre-sales numbers. But certainly we're quite bullish on the year ahead from a launch perspective.
All right. Actually, we have plenty of questions on even the real estate prices in Mumbai in several pockets, but we will have to keep it for another day. Pirojsha, it's a pleasure speaking with you. Thank you very much for joining in.